Dear students, welcome to another second language English class on S.U.M.I Heroes Network. So, in the previous class, I had made it clear why I straight away went to chapter unit 2 of chapter 3, because we had already done chapter 2 and unit 1 of chapter 3. All right. So, in the previous class, I completed unit 2 of lesson number 3, that is the passing away of Bapu by Nayantara Sehgal. So today we are going to start unit 3 of the same lesson. Now before moving on to unit 3, let us quickly discuss what we did in the previous class. So in the previous class, the Gandhiji's funeral was to take place the next day, and thousands of people had come out on the street to attend the funeral procession of Gandhiji. And then towards the end of unit 2, we came to know that walking with Gandhiji had a special meaning for his followers, and how Gandhiji turned this ordinary activity of walking into something very special, something very joyful. Now let us start unit 3 of the same lesson. Some days after the funeral, a special train took Gandhiji's ashes to Allahabad. So after a few days after the funeral, a special train took Gandhiji's ashes to Allahabad. The compartment was decked with flowers. People on the train sang bhajans. So the compartment on which the ashes of Gandhiji was taken, it was decorated with flowers, and people present on that compartment sang bhajans. People did not weep anymore, for they could feel Gandhiji's presence amid the flowers and the songs. People on that particular day did not weep because they felt that Gandhiji was amidst them, somewhere in the middle of them, somewhere amidst the flowers and the songs. At every station, sorrowful crowds filled the platform. So on every station, the train stopped for a while. People had crowded the platform just to get a glimpse of the Gandhiji's ashes. Amid song and prayer, the train reached Allahabad. So people continued to sing bhajans, and the train reached Allahabad. The ashes were immersed in the Ganges, where a huge crowd had gathered at the bank. So the ashes of Gandhiji were dipped in the river Ganges. And a huge crowd over there also had gathered at the bank to witness the moment. Afterwards, we all went back to Delhi. So after a while, after the ashes of Gandhiji were immersed on the Ganges, people returned, or especially the narrator, that is Nayantara Sehgal, returned back to Delhi. And when she reached Delhi, she says, I felt at sea. I had not directly walked with Gandhiji, gone to prison at his call, or made any sacrifice for my country. Back when she reached Delhi, she felt at sea. She felt at sea means she felt helpless. Though she was not directly involved in politics, in the freedom movement of India. She had never, directly walked with Gandhiji. She had neither gone to prison nor she had made any sacrifice for her country. But still, at the loss of Gandhiji, she felt vulnerable. Vulnerable means helpless, defenseless, powerless, weak. Right? My sisters and I and other young people like me had been merely onlookers. Now, the narrator and her sisters, as well as her friends, they had been mere onlookers, means they had been only observers so far in their struggle for independence. All right? But still, she was so much affected by the loss of Gandhiji that now suddenly she felt helpless. I felt I had grown up within a magic circle. So, all this time, when Gandhiji was alive, she had felt that she was inside a magic circle, and that magic circle was protecting her. Right? With Bapu's passing away, I felt the magic circle had vanished, leaving me unprotected. Now that Bapu was gone, suddenly she felt that the magic circle had vanished, had disappeared. And suddenly she was left vulnerable, she was left unprotected, defenseless, and weak. But in the second last paragraph of Unit 3, she says, with an effort I roused myself, but she gathered herself up and a questions she asked a question to herself. Had Bapu lived and died for nothing? How could I so easily lose courage when he was no longer there? So now the question that arose in her mind was that had Bapu lived and died for nothing? Had the death of Bapu had gone in vain or not? Right. So how could she easily lose courage when Bapuji was no more? The contribution of Bapuji had gone in vain or not? This is the question which she asked herself. Now in Unit 3, uh, you have to note that the narrator is expressing her feelings or expressing her thoughts also. In the previous unit, she was expressing the thoughts of the millions of Indians. But over here, towards the end of Unit 3, she gives a personal touch also. My values were not so weak. So then she realizes that her values, her principles are not so weak. Millions of people would have been ordinary folk but for Bapu. Now, millions of people had an ordinary place in front of each other, but had a special a place in the eyes of Bapuji. Bapuji did not discriminate the people of India. This is what she wants to say. He brought them out of indifference. Indifference means lack of interest. So the people, what she realized, what the narrator here realizes is that Bapu instilled in them the strong feelings, fellow feelings in them, and made them realize, feel each other's sorrows, pain, and sufferings. This is what she says. Bapuji brought the people of India from indifference and instilled in them the feeling of brotherhood, that they are one. All right? What if Bapu is gone? We were still there, young, strong, and proud to bear his banner before us. Now, what Bapu is gone? All right? The ideals, the legacy of Bapuji, of Gandhiji, will be carried on by the narrator and her generation. And that is done so. All right? So we have still carried out the legacy of Gandhiji's idealism, his principles, his thoughts, his ideas. Bapu had passed away, but his India would continue to live in his children. What if Bapu is gone, is no more, but the country, the stage in which Bapuji had left his country will prosper, will continue to carry on, all right, and has carried on till now. So towards the end of Unit 3, the narrator ends with a positive note over here. Right? The country has to move on, right? Has to follow the footsteps of Gandhiji. So he is no more, the leader is no more, but still we have to follow, we have to carry our country forward towards in the road of progress, in the footsteps that was left behind by Gandhiji. Right. The till then, before the death of Gandhiji, the responsibility was carried on by an individual, that is the father of the nation. Now the responsibility has been passed on to the coming generation. So now the narrator thinks that it is her duty, as well as her generations, the duty of her generation, to move, to carry the responsibility on their shoulders, and then move the country forward, move the country towards the road of progress, towards the road of development. So with this, we end Unit 3 also. So Unit 3 was the last unit of lesson number 3. So uh, as usual, the Unit 3 is also followed by the comprehension exercises, and apart from that, I'll be sending you the other exercises in the WhatsApp group. All right? So, thank you very much.